Only one thing that concerns me about Fulham, 2 words, Marco Silva.
Shocker, Spurs. I've actually got them coming over as Conte, fantastic manager. No! So we made it. What seems like the longest Premier League season is over. Congratulations to Manchester City, Brighton, Newcastle, were fantastic, and commiserations to Leicester City, Leeds United and Southampton, who'll be playing their trade in the Championship next season. I will be doing a video for the Super Brew winners as well, and just a summary of that one that'll follow in the next week or so. But let's just get straight into it. These are our reactions to how we thought each and every team would finish in the Premier League for the 2022-2023 season. How it works is, if we get the exact position of a team, it's 5 points. 1 position out is 3 points, and 2 positions out, it's 1 point. The same as we do every year. We'll start off, Nathan, with Arsenal,
AKA the Bottlers. Now, I had a bit of reservations against Arsenal because at the end of the day, it is a young squad still developing. I did think, however, they were going to continue and they were going to make European football, but I think they had a year or 2 left. But boy, was I wrong. Really great start to the season. Flying colours. Saka, Martinelli, so good. Odegaard, what a value for money signing he's turned out to be. But with Arsenal, I think they just completely ran out of steam in the end. And in my opinion, call me deluded, but I think this is a bigger bottling than the Gerrard slip back all those years ago. I think it has to be up there for me. But either way, Arsenal fans, you've got to be happy with this season, and Champions League football returns to North London there. So I put them in 4 places out, 0 points.
Well, I put the Gunners in 4th position, 2 positions out. I thought they'd do a lot better than they did the previous season. A point for me, as you say, Nathan, going forward. Arsenal, excellent defensively. They lost Saliba in that central defensive partnership with Gabriel. That was a big blow, and also Jesus up front, that was a big blow as well. But they kind of papered over the cracks there and did ever so well to finish second. So moving on to Aston Villa. Aston Villa, of course, a very, very good season under Unai Emery, finishing 7th. It was the best decision to get rid of Gerrard. Myself, Nathan, I was just 1 position out here. I thought they would have a very good season. I'm really happy with this prediction. Just a 1 position out, 3 points for me.
Yeah, I'll take my Aston Villa prediction as well. To be honest, what I will say with them is they actually met expectations for this season. At the start of the season, they were absolutely woeful under Steven Gerrard. Completely the right decision to sack him and take the time with bringing in Unai Emery, who has really unleashed the potential of this squad. Yeah, and in fact, getting European football for the first time since, I think, 2010 back to Villa Park. And in my opinion, I think they could even be battling for the Europa League next season. Possibly. I really do rate this squad. If they get their transfer window right, the sky's the limit for them, to be honest.
Ollie Watkins had a very good season.
Absolutely
as well.
Spectacular. So I'll get the 1 point there. Now moving on to an absolute stinker for myself. AFC Bournemouth, bottom of the league. Now, if you go onto the majority of Premier League predictors online, everyone had Bournemouth bottom of this season. But at the end of the day, the main reason I put this was because of Scott Parker. Sort of a mess squad for what they have, and at the end of the day, I really don't like Scott Parker's style of play. He was binned at the start of the season after losing 9-0, and I'm sorry, whoever decided that at Bournemouth clearly has a crystal ball. Put their patience in Gary O'Neill, and in hindsight now, looking at it, with some of the players they got, Bournemouth have actually got quite a tidy Premier League squad. And in my opinion, finishing 15th, very good season for them, and now it's time to build on through it, get a few signings in, and yeah, absolutely shocking, 5 places out.
Yeah, I'm disappointed with that. Everybody, as you said, put Bournemouth bottom of the table, or most people did anyway, so a shocker for myself with Bournemouth. But kudos to Gary O'Neill, who did very well. We'll have to wait and see how they get on next season. But moving on to the next position, Brentford.
This is even worse.
Finishing 9th, they had an absolutely fantastic season. Ivan Toney spearheading their attack, even with threat of that suspension, which did come at the end of the season. Thomas Frank, fantastic job. I had them in 15th position. I think it was second season syndrome from myself.
Yeah.
I thought they'd stay up, but they far exceeded more than I expected. So well done to the bees. But I was 6 positions out. My prediction, awful.
Yeah, I had a bad bout of second season syndrome on this one, and I think the main collaborator with this is losing key players. For example, Christian Eriksen. I thought that was going to be a massive hammer blow to them, and in fact, they got even stronger. The Moneyball system's working there well, so -8 for me.
Yeah, apart from Tony, of course, you have the likes of Mbeumo Wissa as well, banging in the goals. So yeah, very good from the bees there.
Absolutely. Moving on, I've had another stinker. Brighton -8. They got European football. I never expected Brighton to ever get European football in this stint in the Premier League. At the end of the day, they were saved by relegation by bad refereeing decisions. That's not me being toxic, that's me telling the truth. And at the end of the day, losing Graham Potter I thought was going to hinder them, but Roberto De Zerbi coming in the middle of the season from Sassuolo, wow. Estupiñán, in my opinion, has been the best left back in the Premier League this season. McAllister, off the back of a very good World Cup performance, winning the World Cup, unbelievable. Moses Caicedo, also amazing. And yeah, Europa League football for the first time in their history.
And you were 8 places out. I was 6 places out. 12 for me for Brighton. You failed to mention Mitoma, who came in, and
brilliant.
He was a revelation. Solly Marsh as well could have scored a lot more.
So many good players in that squad.
Should have scored a lot more goals than he did, but a little bit disappointed. Well, not too bad actually. 12th. I didn't see them struggling this year, but recruitment-wise, they have been fantastic. Now we move on to a woeful prediction. Chelsea, absolutely terrible. What is it? They've had 4 managers this season.
Yeah.
Starting off with Thomas Tuchel, going to Graham Potter.
I think that was an absolutely stupid sacking.
And ending up with the laughable, I can't even, Frank Lampard. I predicted that they finished in 6th position, which was 6 positions out. Nathan, you predicted them to finish 5th, just outside the Champions League positions. But we've had a shocker on this one. Will they do any better next year? It remains to be seen.
They have Poch now.
They have, and it looks to be a massive rebuilding again there for Chelsea, even though they spent a king's ransom last season. But terrible predictions on that one from both.
Just a reminder to everyone, a couple of years ago when Frank Lampard was in charge at Chelsea, I predicted them to finish 10th. Frank Lampard a few years later, they finished 12th. That would have been a good prediction in this one, but yeah, absolutely shocking. I think both Tuchel and also Graham Potter were both unfairly sacked. No patience at all by the board.
Yeah.
And under Lampard, straight down like a stone. Todd Bowley, just lol. £700 million spent, bottom half finish. Shocking. So moving on, Palace. My first perfect prediction of the season. I thought they'd go one better from last year. From 12th to 11th, they're the Palace section, isn't it? They always finish in the same area each season. They had an alright start and then dropped off. Vieira did end up getting sacked, which I was quite shocked about, to be honest. Eze, Zaha, some decent players in that squad. Roy Hodgson comes back. That man's a cheat code at Crystal Palace, getting him back up the table. Good, solid mid-table finish. It'll be interesting to see where they go from here.
Yeah, I was just 2 positions out on this one. Fairly happy with that one. I had them in 13th position. As you say, they finished 11th. So a point for me and 5 points for you, Nathan. Moving on to the next team, Everton. Now I had Everton getting relegated, which was the first time they would have been relegated in their history, and not only the Premier League but the Football League as well, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's just them and Arsenal who've been the longest serving teams. I had them in 19th position, only 2 positions out for me. They escaped by the skin of the teeth, beating Bournemouth on the last day of the season. Nathan, you had them in 15th position, only 2 places out yourself, but you had them sort of comfortably staying
ish. I thought it would be quite close to the bottom of the table, but it's Everton, isn't it? With the amount sort of they've spent in some aspects of the squad. At the end of the day, I did think that they would end up binning off Frank Lampard. They did in the end, and ultimately it's just Everton surviving. They are in trouble next season, however.
And are they moving into their new stadium?
Last
Was
year-
it season
last year
after
at Goodison,
isn't
next
it?
season,
So
yes.
moving on then.
Now, moving on, I've had another stinker, but I think I was one of the only people, oh, that's a massive fly, who predicted this on YouTube. Fulham to stay up, and boy, did they stay up comfortably. I said that Marco Silva would be binned. That was completely wrong. But they have a good foundation of the squad. Harry Wilson, Pereira was brilliant. Mitrovic scored a lot of goals.
Paulinho
was absolutely brilliant as well.
Dan James did well.
Dan James was all right, of course, but yeah, they finished 10th. I was 6 places out. Not a great prediction, but one thing I will take over other people is they did stay up.
Yeah, I had exactly the same as you said. Not many people did it. I was one of those people who actually thought Fulham would stay up. Yeah, very good team. Next season, we'll see what happens. Can they bring in, recruiting next season? Maybe Mitrovic needs a little bit more help up there. Vinicius plays up there as well, but maybe they need another goal scorer there. But I'm fairly happy with that prediction, even though we're both 6 places out. Moving on now to Leeds United, another team, or the first team to get relegated in our predictions. I had them to be relegated exactly the same as you, Nathan. We were just 1 place out, so we both get 3 points here for this prediction. Yeah, no surprise really. They've had 4 managers this season. Sam Allardyce couldn't keep them
Brought him way too late.
Canoto's probably the highlight of their season. Jesse Marsh, nah. I'm not having it. They're down. They're in the Championship next season.
I'll take this prediction massively. At the end of the day, all the way back in August, I said Jesse Marsh, do not rate him as a manager. He's going to be out the door. They were shocking defensively. They set the record for the most goals conceded in a month. Brought in Sam Allardyce way too late when, at the end of the day, who could have done something with our Leeds squad? And what made it worse was Cardiff got a point out of them, considering our season.
Well, not a point. You mean, FA Cup replay.
Yeah, that's what I meant. But at the end of the day, absolute embarrassment. They deserve to get relegated. Bye-bye, Leeds.
So 3 points each for yourself and me. And the scores on the doors, currently you're on 10 points and I'm on 9 points, Nathan.
Moving on to another relegated side, we had Leicester City. Now, this was probably one of those shocking relegations in years. I knew they were going to have a big drop-off because I thought Brenda's magic was going to run out a little bit, and they do have an aging squad, lots of free agents. They are struggling a little bit financially because their owners who are in the duty-free industry, which is shut down, so that's starting to come up a little bit, and also the massive contracts that are starting to roll out. It's just been announced by Fabrizio Romano that Tielemans is leaving on a free at the end of the season. Not a shock, but a stupid move, considering they should have been moved on last year and got 40 million for him, even more. But at the end of the day, Rodgers gone way too late, bringing in Dean Smith, who couldn't really do anything.
No, not really.
And just terrible at the end of the season. So 6-7 years after they won the Premier League, back down into the Championship they go.
And you were 6 positions out, I was 7 positions out, both 0 points, so we're still on 10-9. Moving on to the next letter, Liverpool. Now, Nathan, you predicted them to finish 2nd, I predicted them to finish 3rd, they finished 5th, out of the Champions League positions. A lot of Liverpool fans aren't happy with that. Massive transition period for them. They got a lot of players going out the door now in this window. I get a point for this one. You get 0 points. 10 all going into the next letters. But anything you'd like to add about Liverpool?
Yeah, the main reason at the end of the day, they had the foundations of that squad, and the fact they've retained it, bringing in Cody Gakpo, I thought they'd go for it and grind out a good season. But at the end of the day, midfield's just not good enough.
No.
This summer is massive for them, and they can make a real impact. But yeah, not good. Moving on to the top of the shops, I have Manchester City. Now, guess who won the league? Manchester City. I'll claim 5 points once again for that.
Me as well.
First thing I'd like to add is Rory Jennings on Sky at the start of the season saying that Haaland was going to be one of the biggest flops ever. Pretty much breaks the scoring record. I mean, that's got to be one of the worst football takes of all time. But at the end of the day, Man City is dominant as ever. Finished the season like house on fire after a cagey start, as they always do. And yeah, that is 3 in a row now, which is Man United level. So now things are going to get interesting, and they could win the treble as well.
They could. It's FA Cup final this weekend against Manchester United, if this goes up by the weekend, and then we've got the Champions League coming up against Inter Milan. So yeah, both of us 5 points on this one, Nathan. And moving on to the other side in Manchester United finishing 3rd. I had them finishing in 5th position, gives me a point, and you had them finishing finishing in 4th, 3 points for you. So you've got to be happy with that. You're on 18, I'm on 16. Overall, Marcus Rashford probably the best season he's had in the Premier League, I'd
By
say.
far.
The likes of Anthony, he did okay. It was Fernandez again, and for me, Casemiro's probably the pick
brilliant
of their team.
Yeah, another thing I'd like to happen with Man United, I thought it is, at the end of the day, it's his first year in charge, so it's going to be a bit transitional. Lots of dead wood to clear at that club. They got another massive summer coming up, considering some of the players that are still there. So at the end of the day, I will take it. Now, next up, I don't know why I went for 8th place for Newcastle. I thought first season really fully under their new ownership, added pretty conservatively with 30-40 million pound transfers, but boy was I wrong. Had an absolutely phenomenal season. Eddie Howe, masterclass, getting the best out of your Joe Lintons, your Almirons, who sort of failed
totally different player,
in previous seasons. Totally different players. Gamares was brilliant as well. One of the best defences in the Premier League this season. Trippier, Dan Burn
did start
Botman,
off that way, but
phenomenal.
Then they did actually, in that final third, they were leaking goals.
They were indeed, but at the end of the day, they did finish strong, and they finished 4th. So Champions League football for the first time in 20 years.
Yeah, you were 4 positions out there, Nathan. I was 3 positions out. I thought they would have a very, very good season. Didn't expect them to finish in Champions League. This transfer window over the summer, though, they could do some serious damage in the transfer markets. But yeah, it'll be good to see over the summer. But on the scores on the doors now, you're on 18, I'm on 16. And moving on to the next team, we've got Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest, of course, promoted last season. I had them actually finish in 14th position. You had them in 13th. That's no points for you. I do pick up a point because they did actually finish in 16th. The start of the season, they didn't have the greatest of beginnings, did they? They sort of pulled themselves around, moving up the table, and there was murmurings of Cooper could be sacked. They stuck with him.
I thought at the time it was insanity, to be honest.
That's right, they stuck with him and they actually moved up the table, and then they sort of teetered off before actually the last couple of weeks they did well again. But Nottingham Forest, overall, they've got to be satisfied with that.
Yeah, I'll take this prediction, to be honest, considering it was 0 points, mainly because a lot of people did tip them to go down because they signed too many players. But as I said, I thought that they have to, because at the end of the day, when that squad came up, the majority of it was lower championship sludge, so they had to have a transitional period, and it was going to take its time, but they've been patient, and now they can really knock on next season.
Yeah, Brennan Johnson's done it, and was it Awoni did really well.
He was phenomenal at the end of the season. Moving on to the last of the relegated clubs, now I will happily take this prediction. I had Southampton in 19th. They ended up finishing bottom, by far the worst team in the Premier League this season. At the end of the day, I thought this was unfortunately going to be Southampton's time. It was a young squad, and I didn't think it had Premier League calibre just yet. I was proved right on this one. They do have some great players. Your Lavia's, your Baznews. I thought Ward-Prowse obviously did what he could as well. They did bin that Hasenhüttl way too early, which I thought was a bad decision because he could have done something in January. Nathan Jones, I thought, was also
a disaster.
To be fair, I thought he was unfairly sacked because he wasn't given enough time and he wasn't backed at all in January. Ruben Selles did get what he could outside the squad, but at the end of the day, going down, if they got the managerial appointment correct, I thought they could go up as champions because that squad is near enough ready for a bit of investment, and they decide to bring in Russell Martin. What a stupid appointment that is.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how well they're going to do in the Championship. A young team, they need battle-hardened Championship players. If they can bring them in, then maybe they can bounce back. We'll have to see. Nathan, you get 3 points for that one. And my prediction, I had them just staying up with the skin and the teeth, which was wrong, and I'm on 17 points at the moment. You're currently on 21. And the next team... Oh dear.
Terrible.
Tottenham Hotspur. What was I thinking? I had these finishing as runners-up. I thought they had a great manager in Conte. He couldn't get the best, couldn't get a tune out of this squad. They, ups and downs. Harry Kane, probably he had the best season of his career. He seemed to score in every...
He's going to be out the door in the summer.
Every game. Looks like, who where's he go? Man United, perhaps. But Spurs finishing 8th. You had them 3rd. 0 points for you. 0 points for me. We're just gonna have to get the popcorn out and watch this mess over the summer, aren't we?
Oh, exactly. And at the end of the day, I just wish All or Nothing was filmed this season. But the thing I'd like to make with Spurs, obviously had the end of season implosion. We saw that with Conte's end press conferences. Stellini, absolutely terrible as the assistant going up to manager. End up bringing back all young Ryan Mason for a second interim term as well at Spurs, which is just mad. But I'm starting to see a pattern here. They brought in 2 serial winners who win trophies to a team that's allergic to winning trophies. Both of them have been out of the door. I'm starting to think it's not so much the manager but something else flying around Spurs. But terrible, absolutely terrible. Moving on, I had West Ham. Now I do like this squad. Scamacca I thought was going to be a great signing in the summer, however they've dropped off massively, really throwing their eggs into the basket with Europe, struggling a little bit with squad
that was a hindrance,
and recessed a little bit. We don't know if Moyes is going to stay in charge. At patches we thought they were going to go down, but they did end the season quite strongly and are actually in a European final, which is just mad. So I was 7 places out on that one. Completely terrible prediction, but in hindsight, at the start of the season was really where everyone else put them.
Yeah, I had them finishing mid-table. I was 4 positions out. In the end, they finished 14th. I had them finishing in 10th. And Nathan, you said they'd finish in Europe again. So overall, as I'm not a West Ham fan, but West Ham fans, they shouldn't be too disappointed they didn't go down. David Moyes did a good job, a fantastic job getting them into that European final. And the final team is Wolves, finishing 13th. I had them finishing in 9th. You had them finishing in 10th. We don't get a point for either of these, but Wolves up and down, don't score enough goals. Defensively they were okay until the final weekend of the season. So same as they've got to recruit this summer really. Where are Wolves going to go? Are they going to try and push for those European spaces like they did in their first season? We'll see what happens over the summer, but slightly disappointed with my prediction in that one, Nathan. What about yourself?
I'm a bit moderate, to be honest. I mean, Bruno Lage didn't have the greatest start, ended up getting binned, brought in Stephen Davis for a bit and really took their time and brought in Lopetegui, who I really rate as a manager. And to be honest, if they get the recruitment right, Wolves are going to be incredibly dangerous next season. He is probably one of the most underrated managers in the Premier League. Good aspects of the squad, however, there is aging players and Moutinho's and stuff who do need to now be moved on.
Ruben Neves, okay, he's still young, but there's rumours of him moving on as well. Whether he will or not, I'm not sure.
Potentially cash in now, get a good 50-60 million for him, and then reinvest, get a nice little 20-30 million, couple of those 20-30 million pound signings and push up from that way. But I think Wolves are going to have a far better season next season.
So there you have it, guys. Nathan finished on 21 points. I finished on 17. So congratulations to Nathan. I actually won it last year. For you for winning the predictions this year. However, if we were following the model of the likes of Spencer FC, then you would have had 76 points and I would have had 70 points, which means I would have won. But I
have a feeling that's because of all the 8s and 9s.
That's right. It was a lot, but overall, slightly disappointed with my overall predictions for the year. Nathan, are you slightly disappointed or are you happy?
I think this is probably one of the worst ones I've had this season, but at the end of the day, look at the rest of YouTube. Everyone else was saying the same. I mean, it has been quite hard to predict this season, but if you want some pure entertainment, which is coming out soon, the Championship predictions, and I've seen the spreadsheet. Oh my. Just a spoiler, I got 0 this year, which is unheard of.
Well, in the Premier League, I had 1 perfect, and you had, just looking down the list, 1, 2, but you had a few more 3-pointers there. So thanks for joining us once again. As I said at the beginning of the video, I will be bringing out another video just summarising the Super Brew winner of the Premier League, and I'll bring one out as well for the Championship too. Thanks for joining us throughout the season each and every week on the Prediction Show. Have a great summer. There will be plenty of content coming out though over the next few weeks and couple of months before we do our predictions for the Premier League for the 2023-2024 season. Nathan, before we go, would you like to add anything? Any vlogs coming over the summer?
Who knows? Sub to my channel, link in the description below.
Wales?
Yes, Wales coming soon. Wales Armenia's coming up, isn't it? That'll be a good one.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us once again. We'll see you all in the next video.